During the pandemic lockdown, I became fascinated by a house that was being built on one of my dog walking routes. So from scraped earth to massive ornate villa, my dog and I watched its almost entire construction over 18 months. We'd often take a break in front of it, alternating my internal reviews of the construction from praise to judgment. Wow, what gorgeous windows. Can you imagine the view in the morning? Not so sure about those plants. Not what you call drought resistant. My dog had no opinions on these matters. I remained almost oblivious to my investment in the place until one day when a new addition woke me to my covetousness. An imposing fence was being put around the property. And this pointed out to me that I was not actually ever going to be able to walk into this house. Though I might continue to walk by it in the years to come and remember the pleasure I had had in watching it grow up during the difficult months of COVID. My curiosity, my delight, my life would remain forever outside of that house and the people who lived there. The fence defined the boundaries, who was meant to be inside and who outside. So in the wake of Hurricane Ian, seeing the images of houses, boats, cars, and motor homes hurled upon each other, I think again about that house under construction and how the Florida homes, now merged with their neighbors' belongings and treasures, were once set apart. The fences and walls and property lines establishing who was welcome and who was a stranger. Their demarcations, though, no match for hurricane-force winds and rising floodwater that not only destroyed property but took more than 40 lives. I think about my own hard lines in the sand, how every bit like a hurricane, preoccupations and judgments potentially spiral each of us toward the demolition and isolation from faithful connection. Our savored holdings, those of busyness, self-deception, and separation. Go ahead and pile those on the camel's back. What needle our bloated egos encourage? I worry about sweeping promises from state officials in Florida to clean up piles of beach cruisers, pink flamingos, and pool noodles with what seems deeper affection than is sometimes shown for human beings and animals, and more concern for property than the earth itself. This concerns me because of a state official who bragged about dumping immigrants on Martha's Vineyard. I hope he witnessed the people he wanted outside of his gates welcomed by the very people he wanted to teach a lesson. As it should be, help will be given generously to Florida and all who are suffering from climate change. We will offer help because we know human life and dignity supersede petty grievances and politics, and because science, our theology, and our consciences tell us we must. Florida has a recorded history of intense hurricanes, but climate change is making them more severe. Numerous scientists and news outlets report that sea levels will rise over a foot on Florida's coastline by 2050. That's fewer than 30 years away. And rain and storm surges from hurricanes will continue to intensify. We, of course, have our own climate reckoning in California, but we will not turn our backs on those in need in Florida, because in attending to their needs as ours, we have a chance to look at the camel of self-interest that shackles us to further climate disaster and to find ways to shake free of this. Through Jesus' admonishment that for the rich man to enter the kingdom of God, he must relinquish his material life, Jesus offers a realignment of vision for all of us. After Ian, a natural reckoning of this proportion where no one can numb themselves to climate change, we can find ourselves looking through the eye of the hurricane into the eye of the needle. When our camels, heavy laden with pride and possession, now lose their very appeal, we have a chance to refocus where we give our attention. We have the opportunity to wash away what does not bring us closer to God's vision. This work is true with regard to worldwide problems and down to the singular injuries of our hearts and anxieties of our minds. Because in the eye of the hurricane, there is calm. And in calm, we find solutions to begin again. In a review of Martin Laird's work, Will Briggs wrote, "God has led me deeper to an unsettling proposition that the answers to life's deepest questions are not fundamentally about intellect. We are called to spiritual depths, to simple, mystical things such as the love of God and the fact that, lo, the Spirit of Jesus is actually with us to the end of the age." Though our human condition may seem one of ebbing and flowing toward God's invitation to us, God's grace calls us always, without any barriers. All are welcome. What are the practices you use to find calm and God, to center yourself in the knowledge that you are held by the divine and loved beyond all measure, longed for more than all that can be desired, and blessed for action in this troubled world? This feast day, when we celebrate the life and work of St. Francis, and we give thanks for all of creation and our beloved pets within it, Francis offers us a quote to help us begin our centering work. Francis says, "Start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and finally, you are doing the impossible." Let's start by doing what is necessary. David Brooks wrote, "The people who make positive change usually focus on gifts and how we can use them together." And so we come together with new focus and the certainty of God's welcome for all of us. We meet to worship in community and take the sacrament at this table. Our striving at Grace Cathedral to be a community without barriers that separate encourages us to keep our eyes on our gifts and enables us to begin the necessary work of using them together for the common good and through the eye of the needle. What shall we build together? Starting by doing what's necessary, then what's possible, and suddenly, the impossible.